Here with former world champion and Australian boxing legend, Billy Dib. Billy, a big fight this weekend. Everyone's talking about it. Errol Spence, Tszyu. Mate, we'll get into it in more detail soon, but just give us your overall impressions of this one, Bill.
Yeah, mate, look, you got two guys who are on the tail end of their career. I feel that Errol Spence has had his time in the sun. I feel that Tszyu did have a little bit of time in the sun, but they're both obviously coming off. Tim's rebuilding, but Spence is coming off a bad loss. But I really believe that if Errol Spence at 50% turns up and Tim turns up at 99.5%, it's not enough for him to beat somebody like Errol Spence. That's just my opinion. I feel that Errol Spence has got much better credentials than Tim does. He's been in there with a lot better opposition than Tim has been in with. And so, the runs are on the board for him. The only thing that people have to say is that, oh, look, he's been out of the ring for some time now, but that could also work in his favor because he could be fresh, and obviously Tim's been in a few wars. So there's a lot of wear and tear on Tim at the moment, but let's just see what he can do. Look, obviously, I want the Australian to win because I'm all about Australia getting on top. But if I'm being an analyst and I'm being somebody who's real about the sport of boxing, then you got to speak the facts. And the facts are that Tim has not looked good in his last two fights. He's, he fought mediocre opposition, couldn't get him out of there. And, Errol Spence is coming off a bad loss to arguably the best pound for pound fight of the last 10 years. So is that something to be ashamed of?
Obviously, everyone points to that Crawford defeat and the 3-year layoff. How will that ring rust come into play in your opinion? We won't know till the fight begins, but why are people so sort of obsessed on that point?
I'm very close friends with Ronnie Shields. Me and Ronnie are very, very close. And Ronnie's been very, very open in his discussion with me. And from all reports from Ronnie's side is that Errol's been in the gym. He has not left the gym. You know what I mean? It's not like he's had 3 years off away from the gym. He's been in the gym. He's been working. And obviously, look, the caliber of sparring in America is a lot better than it is here. And I know that Errol's done some work overseas and done some good rounds and stuff like that. And I'm sure Tim's done the same. But one thing I do know is that Jeff Fenech, he would be trying to keep Tim fresh. So I can guarantee you now that Tim hasn't had no hard sparring. Because I worked with Jeff. I know the way he works. It's like when I was fighting, Tim is in the same situation that I was in when I was fighting Tevin Farmer. And Jeff prepared me the same way that he's preparing Tim. And I know this because I trained with Jeff and I've been watching the video footage and all I can see is the same things. I worked with Basil Nazis. I love Basil. He's an amazing coach. But I believe Tim looks very, very square. And he's standing directly in front of the pad man. And if he does that with Errol Spence, well, then it's going to be easy pickings because Errol Spence is just going to go to town. I believe, and this is again only my opinion, I believe that when Tim was coming up, he looked amazing. I thought he was going to do amazing things. People talk about the Sebastian Fundora loss as that was the coming to the end and all that stuff. But the truth is that the biggest mistake that was made was that fight was made. How can you go from preparing for a guy who's orthodox for 10 weeks and then on 1 week's notice, you decide to fight Fundora, who's a southpaw, and he's like 6 foot something? How does that make sense? So that was the first initial undoing of Tszyu. Prior to that, I thought he was a wrecking machine and I thought that he was on the verge of doing some really, really great things. Has he gone on to do that? I don't think so. I think that Tim's done amazing in regards to getting to where he got to, but I believed when Tim was coming up, I believed there was going to be a lot more. I thought he was going to be a serious force to be reckoned with, and I just feel that now we're talking about rebuilding Tszyu, who was once upon a time an absolute wrecking machine. So I don't know. I don't understand how they've done that.
What have you made of, I guess, Tszyu? He left Igor, went to Pedro, now he's with Jeff. What have you made of since that Fondora fight, the evolution of Tim to this point against
I,
Errol?
honestly, I think it's road rage. I think every decision that he's made since the point of that loss and from the point that he's taken that fight have all been road rage decisions. And you may ask me, what do you mean when you say road rage? You know, when you're in a situation and you're in a car and you get into a scuffle with a guy because he did something, that's a road rage moment, right? When you sit back and you're thinking, oh, mate, I wish I never did that, you know? But it's too late. You've already done it. And so I believe all of these decisions that Tim's made have just been road rage decisions. He hasn't really sat back and thought about it. You know what I mean? He hasn't given his time to, when you say Errol Spence has taken 3 years off, maybe Tim needed to take some time off. Not 3 years. Maybe he needed to take a year off, reevaluate what he's doing, work out where he's with his family, work out where he's with his uncle. Because at the end of the day, you sack the guy off, off the back of someone who's looked after you from the minute you came into the sport of boxing. And you didn't just sack anybody, it was your family member. So I just believe, in my opinion, these are all road rage decisions. Is Jeff Fenech a good idea for Tim Tszyu? I don't know. Maybe they've got something that's going, but I don't know. I just feel like Tim is more suited to the European style. It suited him a lot better. And I'm not sure whether what he's working with Jeff is going to work. I don't know. We are yet to see that. And at the end of the day, I'll openly say it. I would love to see Tim and Jeff pull it off. I would love to see that. Do I think they can? I don't. But I want to see him do it. It's not going to be egg on my face because I really want to see Tim win. I'm a big fan of. He can, like, people can say, "Oh, you're a hater." It's not that. I always believed Tim was going to go on to do great things, and I haven't seen that. You know what I mean? He's got an amazing promotional company behind him. Let me tell you, No Limit are one of the best promotional companies, and if it wasn't for them, Tim wouldn't be in the position that he's in today.
You mentioned before, Billy, about you and Tevin Farmer and that fight. From what you've seen in this camp, what are you expecting, Tim? How are you expecting him to approach this fight?
Well, look, I don't know if you can change somebody in 10 weeks. I don't know if you can change somebody in 10 weeks. And I did a good, I did a good year and a half with Jeff. So I was say, like, Jeff sort of rubbed off on me a little bit. But I went into that Farmer fight, thinking that I could mow him down, I could run him over. But obviously it wasn't the right game plan. It is what it is. If Tim goes into the fight with Spence thinking that he's just going to mow him down and he's not going to be strategic in the way that he approaches it, it ain't going to be good because you're just going to run into shots. And listen, the thing about boxing is the more you get hit, the more you get hurt. So the aim of the sport is to hit and not get hit. Jeff Fenech was an amazing, ferocious Tasmanian devil. He was able to come forward and break guys down and that. But a lot of people can't do that. You know what I mean? You can't. It's just you need to be defensively sound, and at the moment, I don't see no defense from Tim's end. To me, it looks like it's all offense, no defense.
What about Errol Spence? How does he approach this fight? What's his path to victory?
Well, I can assure you that under the tutelage of Ronnie Shields, they're going to be working on a game plan, and I'm sure Tim's got a game plan. Apparently, Jeff's got an A, B, C, and D game plan. But, I don't know if that's all going to work after a 10-week preparation. You've only been with the guy for 10 weeks. He's coming off having multiple coaches. Errol Spence has been with Ronnie Shields now for some time, and they've been working. And from all accounts, they've got an amazing game plan. They respect him. Don't get it wrong. When he says he doesn't want to shake Tim's hand, that's not that he doesn't respect him. He has a lot of respect for Tim and his ability. He just doesn't respect the fact that Tim's talking about I want to rip his eye out and I'm going to do this and do that. That's, to him, he feels like that's not sportsmanship. You know what I mean? But does he respect him? He does. Believe you me, he does. He has a lot of respect for Tim, a lot of respect for Tim's ability. And if you're a boxing person and you don't respect Tim's ability, then you're an absolute idiot. Because Tim has shown great attributes in the past. And right now, I feel like what he's trying to do is wind the clock back. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that his use by date's over, but obviously, when you're coming off destructive losses like that, it can't be good for you. Can't be good for your career.
Yeah, there was that article out in the paper today that written by Brendan Bradford that Errol Spence said that Tim Tszyu's no Kostya and he's not his dad. When you look at the two, do you read much into that and how, I guess, has Tim reached his potential in your eyes or can he
I
get
believe.
closer to his?
Listen, I believe that Tim has definitely reached his limits. You know what? He was put in a wonderful position to win a WBO interim world title. He was then given the fully fledged title when Charlo relinquished it, and then he lost it to Fundora. But let's be honest, okay? All this comparison about can Tim Tszyu be his father? Let me ask you this question: can Conor Ben be his father?
No.
Can Prince Nassim's children be him? They can't. No, who's going to emulate Prince Nassim? Are his kids going to do it? They can't do it. There's no chance that his children can. Does Prince Nassim want him to? Of course he does. Does Kostya Tszyu want Tim to be better than Kostya Tszyu? Of course he does. Because at the end of the day, if my son Laith decides one day he wants to be a boxer, I want him to be 100 times better than me. I don't want him to be as good as me. I want him to be 100 times better. And the thing is, nobody is going to ever fill Kostya Tszyu's shoes. Not Nikita and not Tim. Costa had his career, Tim's got his career, and Nikita's got his. What Kostya Tszyu did is absolutely phenomenal. But Kostya Tszyu's coming off the back of 270 amateur fights. Kostya Tszyu was world champion after 12 fights or something like that, 10 fights or something like that, right? Kostya Tszyu knocked out Zab Judah. Kostya Tszyu knocked out Shanbei Mitchell. Kostya Tszyu beat Miguel Gonzalez. Like, the people that Kostya Tszyu beat, come on, man. How can you even compare? Like, you're talking about a Hall of Fame career, and you're talking about a guy who's probably going to reach the Australian Hall of Fame. It's chalk and cheese. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. It's not
If
going to happen.
if Tim was to win this fight, Billy, where would it rank in your eyes? Does he deserve credit? Because there's that sort of
Yes.
sentiment. There's that sentiment
Yes.
that a Tim Tszyu will beat Errol if Errol's washed. But do you see it as if Tim beats Errol, he deserves the credit?
Listen, he deserves the credit for beating this current Errol Spence. And Errol Spence, let's be honest, he had the car accident. He still managed to come back and beat two really good guys. Danny Garcia is a good fighter. Ugas is a good fighter. He lost to arguably the greatest pound for pound fighter of the last generation, which is Terence Crawford. In my opinion, in just as is my opinion, Terence Crawford would have given Floyd Mayweather hell. You know what I mean? He would have given Floyd Mayweather hell. Listen, there's one thing that I know, and I know boxing. I know boxing. Listen, Tim Tszyu is never going to be anywhere near the realm of Kostya Tszyu. Kostya Tszyu is in the realm of his own. Prince Nassim, realm of his own. Jeff Fenech, realm of his own. Fighters like that, they're once in a lifetime type fighters. You can't tell me, oh yeah, Tim was trying to, live up to the standard of his father. He'll never get there. Listen, if he can do a quarter of what Kostya did, then he did great. But if he beats Errol Spence, you still got to give him credit. But you got to give him credit for this current Errol Spence, not for the Errol Spence. Because let me tell you something. Once upon a time, they spoke about Errol Spence being a, once in a generation type fighter. You know what I mean? He was an amazing athlete. He was doing great things. And the man who fought Terence Crawford prior to the accident probably would have given Terence Crawford a better fight. Would he have beaten him? I don't think so. But he still would have done a lot better.
All right, Billy, official prediction for the fight, mate. How's it play out?
Again, I'm going to say this as an Australian, as a man who carries the flag and wore the flag proudly. I want to see Tim Tszyu victorious because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to back your countrymen because every other American is backing their countrymen as well. Even if they think Tim's going to win, they're backing their countrymen. Do I want to see Tim win? Yes, I do. Do I think he can? I don't. But we'll see.
Always respect your honesty, mate. Always respect your time as well. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, brother.